What is up, Tube users? I am the Stereotypical Gamer, and welcome to my channel. I've decided recently to dip my toes in the shark-infested YouTube gaming world and become like every other gaming content creator by recording horrendous gameplay and trying to make entertaining videos out of it. So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, I feel like introductions are in order, and what better way to do that than in the most stereotypical YouTube fashion? By making a top 10 video. Yes, this is a top 10 video of my favorite games of all time. Why? Because what better way to get to know someone than to know their favorite games, right? From games with great storytelling and heart-gripping decisions to games with excellent mechanics and exciting gameplay, these 10 games have it all. So without further ado, let's get into my top 10 games of all time. Number 10. Age of Mythology. This game for me is probably the biggest nostalgia trip. I remember being enthralled by the trailer for this game. Everything about it looks so realistic and cool for the time. I mean, just look at those pixels. I feel like I can count each one of them, and each one of them is brilliant. And the sound of the villagers saying brings back so many fond memories. This game for me stands out against other real-time strategy games because in each game that you play, you feel the progression of your civilization. When advancing through each age, you unlock more buildings, more upgrades, and most importantly, more god powers. And I feel those god powers are what encapsulates you into the game. You're not just a person clicking on soldiers and villagers and telling them where to go and what to do. You are a god commanding your civilization and becoming more powerful with each age you improve into. This game also stands out to me because it's the first and really only game that my entire family played together. In my childhood, our family only had one computer, and we would race to finish our family dinner because whoever finished first got first dibs on playing the computer. And the only game we played was Age of Mythology. Over time, we did get our own computers, and that's when we started having family game nights. I remember when I would host our LAN parties, and I would secretly enable cheats and cause havoc with my Canadian cocaine bear and my flying rainbow hippo. Although the multiplayer aspect was great and offered replayability, it was the campaign that truly stood out to me and earned its place in my top 10 games. The campaign of Age of Mythology is what made a lasting impression on me. Following the story of Arkantos through Greece to Egypt to the Norse lands and watching him go from a skilled warrior fighting through Troy and taking part in the Trojan War to following his nemesis Gargarensis into Hades and trying to stop him from unleashing the powers of Tartarus, to traveling to Egypt and helping Amon-Ra and the Egyptians fight off one of Gargarensis' minions, Kempsit, and help summon the god Osiris, to turning into a boar and saving his fellow soldiers from becoming bacon, to traveling to the frigid north and helping unify the Norse tribes, to helping build the hammer of Thor and sealing another gate to Tartarus, to becoming a literal god at the end of the campaign and slaying Gargarensis once and for all was a very satisfying experience. What stands out to me is the transformation of Arkantos doesn't come from talent points or upgrades or any typical trope that you would see in most games. His transformation comes from the story itself, which makes the conclusion of it all even more satisfying. Number 9. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. No, not that steaming pile of garbage that came out last year. I'm talking about the original Modern Warfare 2. First-person shooters are a staple in gaming. There's just something so satisfying about clicking on an enemy and watching them peel over. Modern Warfare 2 did the best job of making every kill you got very satisfying. What I think stands out about Modern Warfare 2 compared to similar FPS games is the accessibility to a variety of different types of weapons. I feel most FPS games today are based around assault rifles and submachine guns being the most powerful and most useful weapons to play with. And while both of those weapons were good types of weapons to use in Modern Warfare 2, it wasn't the end-all be-all for your weaponry in the game. With the right perks and equipment setup, an average player could use a shotgun or a sniper or just go around stabbing people to death effectively. These elements are what helped keep the gameplay loop exciting and fresh for me. I didn't have to sit back with my M16 dumping 30 rounds into an enemy each game. Instead, I could run a marathon, lightweight, and commando perk combo and go around with a tack knife stabbing people. Or I could really make people upset and run one-man army in danger close and noob tube enemies to death. Looking back, this game was far from perfect. Multiplayer was an unbalanced mess for the most part. I mean, just look at the Model 1887 care package glitching, or just Commando in general, and the game-ending nuke kill streak that somehow gave you the win even though you were nuking everyone. Promoted a camping style of gameplay if you wanted to get your nuclear W. But that's what made the game so enjoyable. I could play conservatively and try and go for kill streaks to win a game, or I could rush in and play close up and just be as effective. All of Modern Warfare 2 was like the Wild West of FPS. It's lawless, unbalanced, and sometimes downright unfair. But damn if it wasn't fun to play. And while the multiplayer aspect of the game definitely had its moments, the campaign is what made a lasting impression for me. When I think about the Call of Duty campaigns I've played, no single mission stands out quite like No Russian. Everyone remembers seeing that warning sign pop up when they first launched Modern Warfare 2, and yet everyone seemed to ignore it, eagerly anticipating what was to come. And then, just 4 missions in, those elevator doors open, and Makarov reminds you,
remember, no Russian.
And all hell breaks loose. And you become the instigator for a war that follows. That one mission alone sets Modern Warfare 2's campaign apart from any other Call of Duty game. But it's not just the missions that make the campaign memorable. The twist of saving Captain Price from the Gulag, to him going rogue and detonating a nuke that destroys the ISS, to the betrayal of General Shepard, the entire story is way more engaging than any other Call of Duty campaign. Number 8. Minecraft. From destructive and devastating damage of Modern Warfare to the personification of pixelated perfection of Minecraft, sometimes you just need a break from slaying gods or killing a bunch of innocent civilians to start a massive world war and just build a house out of some cubes. And that's what Minecraft does so well. There's something so satisfyingly beautiful about every single block in this game fitting into a perfect 1x1 cube. And the creativity doesn't stop at building these cubic masterpieces. The amount of things you can do with a simple block like redstone alone are practically infinite. That is, if you possess the skill to actually understanding how redstone works. From using something simple like making a hidden doorway to pressurized traps, to using it to make complex machines like calculators, what you can do with redstone is only limited to one's knowledge of how to use it. For the rest of us, we'll just stick to building dirt huts and calling it a day. And with the ease of access to modding and retexturizing for the game, the possibilities of what you can do in an open-ended game are, well, endless. Despite its retro appearance, Minecraft has gameplay mechanics of a modern survival game. The fun of this game doesn't stop at the creativity that can be explored in the game. Now, there are actual goals to strive for while playing in a survival world. From mining your way through the ages of wood, stone, iron, and finally diamond, to visiting the fiery hellscape of the Nether in search of a stronghold or bastion, to navigating across the open world to find the end stronghold. to traveling to the end and slaying the Ender Dragon. The adventure to get there is quite a journey that gives players a goal to strive for. But slaying the Ender Dragon isn't the end-all be-all for the game anymore. There's still other things to do and explore in this cubic landscape. From searching shipwrecks for maps of buried treasure, to exploring the depths of an ocean monument in search of prismatic blocks and gold, to slaying the Elder Guardian of these ocean monuments and getting the most valuable loot of all, the Wet Sponge, to exploring desert temples in search of treasure, to farming wither skeletons in the Nether in order to summon the true final boss, the Wither. And even with this game being out for over 10 years now, it's still being updated frequently and bringing in new things to do, explore, craft, and build. This game holds a special place in my heart. I remember when I first played during the early beta days where you just dropped into a world without any instructions or guidance. Despite the lack of direction, the game's creative potential captured my imagination. Building structures that fit perfectly into a cube-filled environment became my obsession. As updates rolled in, I started playing the game as an actual survival game. Mining for better gear, defending myself from creatures of the night became my new focus. But when the end update was released, I was determined to slay the Ender Dragon. I geared myself up with full diamond gear, a bow with plenty of arrows, and potions to strengthen and heal myself. I even farmed the necessary Eyes of Ender to find access to the portal, and placing them around the portal's frame, I stepped forth into the end, only to be promptly knocked into the abyss and lose all my precious gear. And just like that, I learned a valuable lesson in Minecraft. No matter how much preparation you do, the universe can still throw you into the void without warning. Number 7. Rocket League. An unusual game to include on this list as it lacks the storyline and exploratory elements that are typical in many other games on this list. However, it more than makes up for it with dynamic gameplay and excellent physics engine. The game's difficulty curve is one of the most balanced that I've seen, allowing players to quickly learn the basics of the game while offering a high skill ceiling for those who want to take their gameplay to the next level. For example, the double jump and boost mechanic adds a level of complexity that keeps each match fresh and exciting. Rocket League is a kind of game that can leave you breathless with excitement. There's nothing quite like the thrill of seeing the ball careening towards your goal, only to transform into an F-22 Raptor and soar back to your side of the pitch, saving the ball at the last possible second. And when you're on offense, there's such a rush that comes with finding that perfect opening and pushing the ball past your opponents for a goal. The gameplay is so dynamic and engaging that every match feels like a new adventure, full of twists and turns that keep you on the edge of your seat. Playing solo matches is fun, but I think Rocket League really shines when played with a team. There's something so incredibly satisfying about syncing up with your teammates, learning each other's playstyles, and working together to win the game. In fact, some of my most memorable gaming experiences have been with random teammates who I've never met before. It's amazing how quickly you can form a cohesive team when you're all working towards a common goal. Overall, Rocket League may not have the epic storylines or immersive worlds of some of my other favorite games, but its unique blend of simplicity and complexity makes it a standout title that's always fun to play. Rocket League was the first and really only game I became immersed in the competitive scene. I normally don't like to play the competitive side of games, but this game was different. I felt like playing competitive would give me more satisfaction of winning with a group of cohesive teammates and would help me improve my skill ceiling for the game. I remember starting my competitive journey in Season 1 or 2, climbing from a complete disaster of an incompetent player in Bronze to a slightly less terrible but still pretty garbage player in Silver, to a decent but not so great player in Gold, to actually getting somewhere in Platinum, and finally reaching my pinnacle in Diamond 2. In competitive Rocket League, everything felt more exaggerated to what you would find in a normal match. The team dynamic was either much more engaging and clicked really well when you had teammates you worked well with, or there was absolutely no chemistry with you and your teammates and everything just felt off. There was hardly ever a middle ground. This journey was filled with follies, fun, frustration, frantic first places, foolish fails, and unforgettable finishes. For me, Rocket League Competitive was in a league of its own. See what I did there? Number 6. Life is Strange. Falling back into the trend of games with excellent storytelling, Life is Strange prioritizes storytelling over traditional gameplay mechanics, resulting in a down-to-earth and engaging narrative. Yes, there are elements of gameplay with puzzle solving, collectible finding, and exploration, but the driving force of Life is Strange is the choose-your-own-adventure side of the story, where player choices have significant impact on the outcome of game events. Early on in the game, Max, the main player character, discovers that she has the ability to reverse time. Throughout the game, we discover Max's abilities to reverse time has consequences that ripple throughout the story, much like the butterfly effect. With the discovery of her new powers, Max reunites with her old friend Chloe and helps her investigate the dark and underside of what appears to be a bright, normal seaside town. After reading about the game's premise, I was intrigued enough to give it a try. And although I've only played it once and don't plan on ever replaying it again, the impact that it had on me is why it ranks number 6 on my list. Now you may be asking yourself, why? Why is a game that you've only played once and never plan on revisiting one of your top games of all time? It's a fair question. There are probably 100 games that I've put more time into than this game, but what almost all those games fail to do is leave a lasting impact. Sure, I could play Life is Strange again and choose different actions to see a different side of the story play out. Sure, I could go back and try and get all the collectibles and 100% complete the game. But doing that doesn't sit right with me. I made the decisions that I did in the game and witnessed what the consequences of those actions did. And yeah, I could be like Max and reverse time to see a different and probably brighter side of the story. But I think if I went back, I would do the same thing again. And that's why this is a game that made a lasting impression on me and rightfully belongs in the number 6 spot on this list. Number 5. FTL Faster Than Light. From a story-driven choose-your-own-adventure game to an adventuring game where you choose your own story, FTL Faster Than Light is truly a masterpiece of excellent gameplay combined with great choices of storytelling that help shape each adventure you pursue in the game. FTL is a roguelike in that each time that you start a new adventure, you start completely fresh with none of the perks or upgrades you had from your previous encounters. Your goal is to defeat the Rebel flagship before you're caught by the pursuing Rebel fleet. The game is interesting and quite unique in that it plays like a real-time strategy game and also has a turn-based strategy game with one simple mechanic: the almighty pause button. The pause button in this game doesn't just pause the game, it allows you to plan your next move. Oh, my shields got damaged? Well, let me pause the game and figure out who I want to repair them, and while I'm at it, I'll figure out which part of the ship I want to attack next. This simple mechanic makes the game so much more enjoyable because it allows you to plan and develop strategies with each encounter you come across. Another fantastic thing about the encounters you come across is as you progress through each encounter, you gain access to different upgrades to your ship, which in turn allows some of the encounters to be approached in different ways. For example, early on you may come across an area that is just full of debris. With not many upgrades, you'll probably find some scrap and maybe a weapon if you're lucky. But as you progress, you'll probably upgrade your scanners on your ship, and then when you come across another area filled with debris, you can use your upgraded scanners to scan for life forms, which grants you an extra crewmate. And that's just one example of a normal encounter being changed because of an upgrade on your ship. There are hundreds of different encounters that can be approached in different ways depending on the build of your ship and what upgrades you have. All these different encounters combined with all the different builds and upgrades you can do to your ship make each run fresh, exciting, and interesting each time you play. Number 4. Gunfire Reborn. Another roguelike and the newest game on this list. Gunfire Reborn takes the best elements of a roguelike and crams them into a first-person shooter. There are just some days where I just want to play a first-person shooter, but I don't want to deal with the hassle of online gaming. It's tough to find a replayable FPS game that doesn't require an online presence to play. But Gunfire Reborn checks all those boxes. With a unique set of guns that can have different encryptions changing the style of play of just one particular gun, combined with the multitude of occult scrolls that enhance or in some cases hinder your playstyle, plus the ability to upgrade your character throughout the run with different abilities, adding a progression system that allows you to upgrade your character for every run. Gunfire Reborn has a seemingly endless amount of unique styles of gameplay that keeps each run fresh and exciting. Very rarely will you even see or kill the first boss on your first few runs. But as you progress and upgrade your character, you can feel everything becoming easier until you finally defeat the boss. I remember the excitement I felt defeating Lu Wu for the first time and seeing all those soul essences, upgraded weaponry, and treasured golden occult scrolls. I felt like with all these upgrades, I was unstoppable and ready to take on the next challenge. I went through the portal into the desert and was promptly killed by a sniper. It definitely takes time and a good amount of upgrades, but then you finally go on that run. You get a gun that has really good inscriptions and some occult scrolls that synchronize well together, and you feel like a beast possessed with a blood-fueled rage to kill everything in sight. You progress multitudes further than you've ever gone before until you finally are staring face to face with the final boss, the Pole Monarch. You burn him down, dodging all of his mechanics, and boom, he is defeated. The relief of killing that final boss for the first time is truly extraordinary. But the game doesn't stop there. Now it's time to up the stakes and do it again on Elite difficulty. Then, once you go through all the stages on Elite difficulty and kill the Pole Monarch, you unlock Nightmare difficulty. Once more, you go through that all again and you finally unlock the fun part of the game, Reincarnation difficulty. See, while Elite and Nightmare simply make the game harder by adding more health to enemies and giving them more damage and different modifiers, Reincarnation now allows you to vastly upgrade your character in unique ways for each run. By the time you've reached this pinnacle, you would have probably maxed out your talents and are just collecting soul essences from each run just to collect it. Well, now you can use those essences to enhance your run in unique and fun ways. Not only can you use soul essences to buy unique perks at each stage, but you will also find soul essence vendors that will sell enhanced scrolls and weapons that allow for even more unique gameplay. Overall, the vast amount of variety of weapons, combined with the multitude of different unique scrolls, plus the enhancement to your talents in each run, make this game feel fun, exciting, and fresh each time you play. Number 3. World of Warcraft Classic. World of Warcraft has always been a game that has piqued my interest from the first moment I laid eyes upon it. Whether it was exploring the vast fantasy-driven zones across Azeroth or fighting the larger-than-life bosses in dungeons and raids, World of Warcraft truly lived up to the expression of astonishment. Wow. But unfortunately, the barrier of entry was always the toughest raid boss encounter. From having a monthly paid subscription model, the game was out of my reach for most of my childhood. I could not convince my parents to pay the $15 a month plus an extra $40 for each new expansion that came out. Just wasn't worth it for the time. But then, as life moved on, I finally got my own credit card and a source of income to where I could afford to play the game. But then came the other barrier of entry. With a plethora of expansions that had been released and its seemingly infinite number of things you can do, it was hard for me to try and justify getting into the game. So my dreams of conquering Azeroth were put on the shelf, and I thought maybe if one day I got a time machine, I could go back in time to 2004 to learn to play World of Warcraft with everyone else. Then it happened. August 26, 2019. The release of World of Warcraft Classic. Finally, a chance for me to dive into the beginnings of WoW. And what a journey it was and has been. From the early leveling experience with a huge influx of players trying to fight for each quest mob, to the daunting dungeon experience with countless wipes because no one knew what they were doing. The Classic release was truly a fun and memorable time. It took me longer than most to get to level cap and actually start playing the game properly. I remember thinking as I was getting close to level 60 what I would do after that. The idea of raiding with 39 other people and fighting these larger than life raid bosses seemed too daunting for me, especially when not playing the most ideal tank. But as time went along, I hit level cap and decided to join a raid for the guild I had been a part of since I was leveling. They had already had all the raid content on farm at this time, so it wasn't much of a challenge. Over time, I kept raiding, getting better gear, and before long, it was time for the next raid to be released, Blackwing Lair. Finally got to see what progression in a raid was like, and boy was that an experience like no other. From the raid leader explaining the boss and having half the raid not pay attention to the explanation and wiping the raid, to having someone go AFK in front of a moving patrol, pulling them and wiping the raid, to having our main tank use a limited invulnerability potion on a boss, causing him to lose aggro on said boss and wiping the entire raid. Progression raiding was truly a fun and different experience on its own. And while banging your head against one single boss for hours at a time may seem crazy to some, there are few things more satisfying than killing the boss with 39 other people that you've been trying to kill for hours. Classic WoW has truly been a gaming experience of a lifetime. From slaughtering a multitude of dragons in Blackwing Lair, to taking part in the genocide of the Gurabashi trolls in Zul'Gurub, to working together with the Filthy Alliance to create a war effort, to opening the gates of Ahn'Qiraj, to slaughtering a plethora of bugs and killing the old god Cthulhu, to finally stepping foot in the dreaded necropolis of Naxxramas and slaying hordes of undead monstrosities and one of the most powerful liches in Kel'Thuzad. That's where Classic WoW ends and the next expansion, the Burning Crusade, begins. And while it was exciting to step into the Dark Portal and explore and conquer the new world of Outland, the Burning Crusade didn't hold the same gravitas as Classic WoW did. Even the current expansion I'm playing through in Wrath of the Lich King doesn't hold the same fun and excitement I had playing Classic WoW. So for me, even though each expansion holds new, fun, and exciting features, none will hold a candle to my burning passion of Classic WoW. Number 2. The Fallout series of Fallout 3, New Vegas, and Fallout 4. It's hard for me to pin down one Fallout game to put on my list of favorite games of all times, because each one holds a special and unique place in my heart. So I'm putting 3 of them on the list. Let's start with the first in this trilogy, Fallout 3. While gameplay and graphics wise this game doesn't hold up as well as New Vegas or Fallout 4, it's still an important game because it's the foundation of a great game design that would be built upon by its successors. One of the most important aspects in a Fallout game, and is most prevalent in Fallout 3, is the decision-making aspect. Each action you choose to make has consequences. This plays throughout the game in the form of karma, where good decisions yield you good karma and bad decisions yield you bad karma. Depending on your karma levels, the game will reward you with strong companions and free ammo and goods, or punish you with bounties placed on you. And although Fallout 3 may not hold up graphics-wise by today's standards, the exploration of the Capital Wasteland still holds fond and nostalgic place in my heart. From growing up inside Vault 101, to being abandoned by your dad and having to fight through the corruption of security guards and radioactive cockroaches, to opening the vault and exploring the Capital Wasteland for the first time, this massive open world has so many things big and small to explore. Whether it's finding a hollowed rock near where you came out of the vault, or a scrapyard city that decided it was a good idea to build a town on an undetonated atom bomb, or discovering a hideout run by children that are better equipped than most people in the wasteland, or just finding a door in the middle of nowhere that just says fuck you on the other side. There's so many things to explore that don't involve you going through the story to find, and that's why Fallout 3 will always be one of my top games of all time. But the series doesn't stop there. Now, let's talk about how great Fallout New Vegas is. New Vegas, in my opinion, has the best story of the Fallout trilogy. The fact that at the start of the game you are shot dead and buried, only to be brought back sometime later, just captivates me in a way no other game has done. And with that simple start of the story of you were shot dead and brought back to life, now go track down the man who shot you, makes it easy to dive straight into the gameplay of New Vegas. And with a rich narrative with a multitude of different endings depending on which faction or people you align yourself with, this game has so much replayability. This, combined with better FPS mechanics of actually being able to aim down sights and have your bullets hit the target you were aiming for, makes this game superior to Fallout 3. And while the Mojave Wasteland feels more barren than the Capital Wasteland, it just makes each landmark you come across more intriguing to explore. Whether it's stumbling across the giant T-Rex statue in Novak, or helping ghouls launch into the far beyond at the REPCONN test site, or exploring the deadly flora in Vault 22. New Vegas has a lot of interesting locations that are spread far enough around the map that makes each location you find a desire for discovery. With all the great elements New Vegas fine-tunes and adds upon from Fallout 3, the strides and bounds Fallout 4 takes in adding to the Fallout formula makes it the best game of the trilogy. Fallout 4 takes everything right with the previous Fallout games and makes them even better. For example, looting is a big part of the Fallout games. Just about every chest, locker, and container has some loot inside that can be valuable, but the downside of looting in Fallout 3 New Vegas is the looting kind of feels clunky and slow at times. Whenever you open a chest to loot, the game pauses as you decide if that wonder glue you just found is worth the carry weight. This makes the game feel so much more slow and takes you out of the immersion of the game. Not with Fallout 4. Sure, they still have the pause mechanic if you're trying to transfer items in and out of a container, but if you're just trying to loot things, Fallout 4 makes it so much easier and smoother by doing two simple things: allowing you to see the loot whenever you're looking at a container, and prioritizing it in a way that makes it quick and easy to get the good stuff out of a container. This mechanic alone makes Fallout 4 feel so much better than its predecessors, but it doesn't stop there. Now you can sprint around the Commonwealth. It seems like such a small change, but after waddling around like an old grandma for 2 games, the mechanic of being able to move faster is refreshing. The update of these mechanics, plus the addition of crafting and settlement management, allows players to play Fallout in an entirely different way previous to the other Fallout games. Instead of going around through the story and completing all the quests, now you can build an entire base and fortify settlements with recycled materials you find. While I do feel that questing in Fallout 4 gets pretty repetitive, aside from the main quests, compared to previous Fallout games, the addition of settlement management and crafting brings a new life into this game that is fresh and fun, and is definitely what makes it one of my most favorite games of all time. Number 1. Return of the Obra Dinn. So looking at this list of games, I would estimate I've played around 3,000 hours between games 2 and 10, and that's a low estimate. Return of the Obra Dinn is a game I've played through once for about 12 hours, and it is hands down the best game I've ever played. If that speaks any sort of volume to you, I would recommend just stop watching the video now and go buy this game, because it is simply that good. I won't spoil anything about the game, because to understand what is so great about the game can only be explained through playing it yourself. With interesting mechanics, a wonderful and gripping story, and minimalistic but effective and captivating graphics, Return of the Obra Dinn is a masterclass in great game design all around. While this game unfortunately doesn't have the replayability of most of the other games on this list, it makes up for it by bringing you on one of the most fantastic and amazing journeys. If I had a time machine, I would constantly be going back to the first time I played this game and go through that immersive feeling I had when I first played. It truly is the personification of absolute perfection in gaming, and I cannot say enough great things about it. But I'll stop here. If you haven't played it, go play it and enjoy every moment of it, because it is really perfection encapsulated in a game. And that's my list of my top 10 games of all time. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you liked, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
That rhythm.